And again, I have a different version of Access than the computers in the lab, but the only difference is the computers in the lab don't color code the SQL and they don't auto-indent it. And so it looks a lot plainer and sadder than mine does. But okay, what did I just do? I opened up a blank database here, and I guess it just opened up, it just created a table for me, spreadsheet view. It assumes that I'm going to have an ID field, and then it assumes that maybe I want another field here. But before I add data to my spreadsheet, I always want to go to the design view first. Anyone tell me where the design view is? What is going on here? Is anything happening? I guess stuff is happening. I'm having a hard time seeing this screen from back there, so I'm trying to help as much as possible. I guess that's somewhat better. So, anyone know what I'm talking about when I say design view, Sam?
The thing up in the top left.
This thing with the protractor, triangle, ruler thing, that is the icon for design view. If I drop this down, I also have datasheet view. I'm currently in datasheet view. And tables look like Excel files, or they can go to this drag and drop environment here. Anytime you change the design view, Access is going to ask you to save that table design in your database. And so basically I need to give this a name. I'm going to recreate this actors movie thing. So actors will be the name of this table. Okay. Now it gives me this sort of design sheet where I have the names of my columns and then the data types of those columns. And what I wanted you to see is Access really wants you to design tables with a primary key, because primary keys make finding data faster. So it's saving extra data in there so it can retrieve data for you more quickly. But I'll tell you what, you're not even going to notice it, whether there's a primary key or not. And so just to simplify things, I typically tell people, until you know that you want a primary key, just simplify this by not having a primary key. A primary key is always going to, by default, be an auto number data type, which means the first record will have ID 1, the next record will have ID 2. You're not in charge of putting in those IDs. The computer is, and that's nice. That's a nice facility, because you don't want to be in charge of giving IDs to people, because you might actually put in ID 37 in several times, and then that just screws up the efficiency. So auto numbers is a really good idea, but you know what? I'm not going to use auto numbers. I'm not going to use primary key. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. It's going to be an integer ID, and it's not going to be a primary key. How do I turn off the little gold primary key icon there? You just click on this primary key button, and the field is no longer a primary key. I'm going to call this act ID, short for actor ID, but I am lazy like that. And it's going to be a number. If I look down here, it's going to be a long integer. Oh, it's a single for some reason. That's weird. I'm going to change it back to long integer. I double-clicked on that and somehow changed the data type. Okay, what? I'm terrible at this. There we go. So actor ID, it's going to be some long integer. And you can change other properties if you want, but I just typically go with whatever it gives me by default. So this table is going to contain two columns, an ID and an actor name. You know what, if I actually type in something like name, it's probably going to tell me that that's a reserved word, and that's why I misspell things like dat and tim instead of date and time. But in order to avoid that annoying error message, I'm just going to have the actor field contain the actor's name. It chooses short text for me by default. You can choose long text if you want, that's fine. But I see that short text has 255 characters. I think that's enough for any actor. Once you're happy with the design of your table, I am. I've got two columns here. Two columns where I can put the data in myself. I want to view this in spreadsheet view again. It wants me to save because I've changed the design of the table. Sure, fine, okay. And where's this saving? Into my documents folder, it looks like. And so, right now, I guess I'm in edit mode. How do I know? This star is basically saying this is the new record that's about to be created. So let's say actor number 1, there's the pencil that shows me that I'm in editor mode. This data is not saved. This data saves itself into the database as soon as you leave that row. So it's not saved as long as you can see that pencil. Oh, I think it thinks I put an empty string in there. So this is going to be the actor Paul Newsman. And it's editing, so this isn't saved until I hit return or click somewhere else. And maybe this is going to be actor number 20, Alice Smart. Okay, so I've got actor number 1 and actor 20. Those are my 2 actors for now. I want to create another table, movies that these actors might be in. Go to the Create menu, open up Table, and again, I'm going to go to Design because I want to define which, this is going to be movies. I want to define which columns I have here. Okay. Again, primary key, I don't need that. Where's my primary key button? I just needed to click in here, so it changed me to Table Design View. Turn off the primary key, and I just want to put a number in here myself, so I'll be responsible for that. And then this is just going to be movie, and this is actually going to be a string. Again, short text is fine with me. Go back to spreadsheet view, save the table, sure, and ID number 1, and this is the movie what? It's the movie Godzilla Rex. All right, and movie number 16 just happens to be of War and Words, or Worms. Okay, and so now I've got 2 movies, 2 actors, and they've both got their own individual IDs. How do I connect an actor to a movie? And my idea is I'm going to combine their IDs together. And the easiest probably way to do that is to put that information in another table. And it's nice to have that other table named something that gives you an idea of what that table's purpose is in connecting these 2 entities together. And so I believe when I last did this, I talked about naming that table Acts In, but I was lazy and just named it Other. I'm going to do it properly this time. Create a new table. I guess I could have gone straight to table design. I just saw that icon disappear. I'm going to go to design now, and I'm going to call this Acts In. I'm sorry about the tininess of the text in these forms. And so now I'm in the design view, and these names don't need to be the same. We're going to connect them later by drag and drop. I do not want this to be a primary key, however. I don't want it to be auto-numbered. I want this to be a number, and I forget if it was act or actor ID in the other table, but this needs to be a number. And I'm going to try to make this a different name. I believe I made it as short as possible in the other table. And so I want to connect actor IDs to the movie IDs that they star in. So movie ID is what I will name this guy. That will also be a number. And I think that's it. Now I'm going to add some data. Sure, I changed the design. I need to save. So I know I had actor number 1, and I believe I had actor number 16, or movie number 16, and then I believe I had actor number 20, and I believe, and I know I had a movie number 1. So right now, I don't know if you can see from the screen, but that second row is currently being edited, so technically it doesn't exist yet. And maybe I didn't notice that. I'm going to go over to create a query object that actually asks, that actually will deliver me the data that I'm looking for, and I'm just going to populate it by drag and drop this first time. And as you grow in experience, you're going to be unsatisfied with dragging and dropping. It just takes too long. You're going to start to use the code that you learn in the SQL language. That tends to be faster. But for now, I'm just getting you used to the database interface here. And I don't realize that there's only one row in this acts in table, because I've already moved on to create. And I like going to query design. Query Wizard will ask you questions, but I tend to get confused. And later on, when you're familiar with the code, you're probably just going to want to create your queries in SQL query. But I'm just going to go straight to design here. And a lot of you will recognize this from last time. I have all the tables that I can draw from. I want to print out my actors, really their names. The ID doesn't mean much to me. I want to connect my actors to the movies, so I'm going to drag that table design out, and then the table that's acting as the glue in between them, the one that combines the movie ID with the actor ID, is in the acts in table. I see that my movie ID is just ID, so that's great. I like being able to connect fields to each other that don't have the same name, because it doesn't matter if the fields that are being connected don't have the same name. What matters is that they are of the same data type. That way they can be compared to see if they're equal. So you probably almost never connect a string row to a number row, for example, right? Because those are completely different data types. But having different names doesn't really matter. I'm going to connect act ID to actor ID because they are basically the same data and definitely the same data type between those two tables. And I'm going to connect ID in the movies table to movie ID in the acts in table because those are supposed to be the same data. And what I'm really trying to do is get the actor name together with the movie name. That's what I really want to see here. And I can build this in the drag and drop interface by just dragging the actor field from the actors table design into the first column of the output design down here, and then the movie name from the movies table into the second column. And what that should do is connect together all of the data on all of the rows where the actor ID is the same between actors and acts in, and the movie ID is the same between acts in and movies. All right? So in the query design menu on the ribbon, there's this big red exclamation point that runs the query that you've built through drag and drop here. And so I ran this test in the lab this morning, and I was wondering to myself, I created 2 rows in both of those tables, and I made sure there was 1 actor per film. Why is there only 1 row of output showing up here? And can someone tell me why? Because I tried to preview it when I made my mistake. Why is only Paul Newsman popping up here? Well, if I go back and look, make sure that I put in the right numbers for 1 and 16 and 20 here. If I go back into these guys here, I realize, oh, this row is still being edited. This row doesn't actually exist. And so actor 1, it must be Paul Newsman, and movie ID 16 must be Warren Worms. And so I need to get off of that row, make sure that that pencil disappears. And now I'm going to go back to the query. And where is my run menu? Where's the run menu for my query? How can I run this thing? Well, get out of data sheet view. So this is the result of the query. If I go to design view, there it is. There is my run menu thing. And now if I click it, it's going to run. It's going to display its results in the spreadsheet. And now I see the 2 rows with the actors connected to their movies. But the example that I showed you the first time I did this, I had multiple people in the same movie, and so the movie name appeared multiple times, once with each actor that was in there. One of the things that I asked you to do in the homework, I believe, in the instructions, is show me the SQL view of this query that we built and try to give me an explanation for it of whatever you understand. It doesn't matter if you don't get it completely right. I just want you to grapple with how this SQL coding language is representing concepts, and see if you can tell me what these code words are actually doing. And so to view the SQL that you have been creating by dragging and dropping things and connecting things, you have to be inside the query object. It hasn't asked me to save this object yet, but I'm going to save it now. It's going to ask me for a name. I'm just going to give it a name that starts with Q, lowercase q, and then this is the acts in query, so Q acts in. Okay. There, now I have a queries object that I can open up whenever I want. But if I'm in the query object, now this drop-down gives me three views: the output or datasheet view, the design view where I'm dragging and dropping things and putting them together, and the SQL view. And so this is what I assume you're going to copy-paste into your report for me and give me a little half-paragraph explanation of what this is doing. I mean, select is just grabbing actor from the actors table and the movie data from the movies table. And so select lists the fields of data that it's grabbing. From generally lists the names of the tables that it's grabbing from, and often those table names by default in Access are prepended to the field names. But really, if the field names are all unique, it doesn't really need the prepends. And I think many of my field names are unique, but Access just does everything. And so it is grabbing that data from a table that's comprised of taking the movies table, joined together with the actors table, which itself is joined together with the acts in table, and it's basically defining those lines that got created when I dragged from field to field. All right, that's kind of what's going on here. I want to show you one more thing that might explain this a little bit more, a little bit better. I mean, by default, this is the information that we care about. We want to know which actors were in which movies, and that's what this, I'm trying to make this a little bit more legible. That is what this the spreadsheet output is showing me. These are all the actors and these are the movies that they were associated with by that SQL query that you saw. But how did that happen? What is the connections that are going on behind the scenes? And so one way to illustrate that, I think, in the query, let me go back to design view of this query, is let me not only show you the stuff that you're interested in, but prove to you that the stuff is there, that the name did get connected to that movie, because the actor ID in the actors table was indeed exactly equal to the actor ID in the acts in table, and that the movie ID in the acts in table that was associated with that actor ID was exactly the same as the ID value in the movies table. These check marks mean that these values will be shown in their own individual columns, and so now when I run this query, you're going to see that the reason Alice Smart was associated with the movie Godzilla Rex is because act ID in the actors table was the same value as actor ID in that glue table, and movie ID in that glue table was the same as the ID value in the movies table. And the same thing for Paul Newsman. And so this is the background wiring that brought data from two separate tables together. And it's super important for relational databases. Most databases we use tend to be relational databases where every object, like a class, is defined within its own table, just like classes are defined within their own section of your computer program. and you often need some common data in between the two in a database in order to make sure that you can combine data from those different locations all onto the same row that says this actor is in this movie. All right? Even though those two pieces of data came from different locations, there's something that connects them somehow. In this case, there's only one table in between, but in more complicated cases, you might have a trail that goes from this table, through this table, through that table, through that table, through that table to this. And then that's how you connect data from those two tables all together on one line in your result set. All right? Make sense? Any questions? All right. Then in that case, how much time do I have left? Let me shift gears, and I only have 4 minutes left. You know what? Even if I do shift gears, I'm not going to be able to tell you anything satisfying in the next 4 minutes. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to let you go a little bit early today. We are next going to meet right here, same time on Friday. I believe I have a video queued up to show you, which is one of the best statistical presentations that I have ever seen, and it is made possible only by the fact that there is a database underlying it all. But it is a fascinating graphical display, so I love showing that in my database class. If you have no further questions, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you very much. See you on Friday.